Bucknutters, welcome to the Bucknuts Morning 5 here on Friday, September 1st, 2017. I am Dave Biddle, and I'm very happy to be joined by Alex Gleitman. Alex, it is the morning after Ohio State's season-opening 49-21 win at Indiana. I'm operating on about 3 hours of sleep right now, as you might be able to tell from my voice. It was a tale of two halves as the Buckeyes trailed 14-13 at halftime. They even trailed 21-20 in the third quarter, but for the most part in the second half, they really turned things on both sides of the ball. They won the game by 28 points. Alex, the spread was 20.5, so fans should be happy this morning, right? If you're a Buckeye fan, you should be happy. The Buckeyes won by 28. The spread was 20.5, but a lot of fans are upset. Everybody's kind of just like focusing on what happened in the first half, and you hear a lot of fans that are upset. Alex, what is your biggest takeaway? Should fans be upset this morning?
Yeah, I think it's tough. I completely get the frustration and the expectations for this team and this offense. But at the same time, if you told people that Ohio State was going to win this game 49-21 before it kicked off, I think at least 99% of Ohio State fans would take that very happily. I think people need to take into account, first and foremost, this isn't your normal opener. This isn't taking on Bowling Green or Kent State or, Akron or someone like that at home, in the Horseshoe in front of 105,000 Buckeye fans for your season opener, where you really get to work on a number of different things, and you end up winning 63-7 or something like that. This was a tough game. I mean, Indiana's got a solid defense. They return a lot of people from what was a pretty good defense last year, especially their back seven is pretty good. On offense, I mean, everyone knew Richard Lago could throw the football. They obviously have some playmakers at the receiver position, and it was on the road at night, Thursday. I think there's a lot of hype in this game, maybe one of the biggest games in Indiana football history. Certainly, what Tom Allen called one of the biggest home opener in school history. And so I think you need to take all that into account. There's obviously a lot of rust, that have to come off for both sides. You also had a new play caller in Kevin Wilson, a new quarterbacks coach in Ryan Day, integrating some things into Urban Meyer's system, and it was their kind of first time taking a crack at this. And so I think you need to give Ohio State a pass a little bit in terms of what happened in the first half. Don't get me wrong, there's plenty to work on, and I think a lot of the things were unacceptable. I was really surprised about the play calling in the first half. I thought that they would do a better job there. I thought they were kind of vanilla and predictable, and they didn't really bring in a lot of the concepts that they adjusted to in the second half. But you also have to give Ohio State credit for how they played in the second half. I think, there was a time where I actually texted our group and I was like, they could lose this game. I didn't think they were gonna, but they could lose the game because of the way they were playing it. They didn't change anything. And you have to give the coaching staff credit for the adjustments they made at halftime. You have to give the players credit for executing on those adjustments. They did a lot of crossing routes, getting separation in the second half, the protection, JT Barrett delivering the football. Everything was a lot better in the second half. And on the defensive side of the ball, the secondary got torched in the first half, and they did a much better job in the second half. So, again, I think I understand the frustration by the fans, and I understand, you want to see, a little bit better performance in the first half there. But, the game's 60 minutes for a reason. Ohio State rolled up 596 yards and 49 points. That's a pretty good offensive output. So, while I think there's things they need to improve on, especially for Oklahoma, they can't start like that next week. I think you have to look at kind of the end result and realize that the game is 60 minutes. And if this was, again, if I said 49-21 before the game, I think a lot of people would be pleased with that.
5, 10, 15 years from now, the one thing every Buckeye fan is going to remember about this game is the debut of J.K. Dobbins. First time since Maurice Clarett in 2002 that a true freshman had started the opening game for the Buckeyes. Robert Smith started as a true freshman in 1990. There's some discrepancy if he actually started like the exact first play, but you can consider Robert Smith as a starter the whole season as a true freshman in 1990. So I'm not buying that Clarett was the first one to do it. Archie Griffin took over second game as a starter, but still, it's very rare for this to happen for a freshman to start the opener, and then for him to play the way he did against a really good defense. I mean, this is Indiana returns 9 defensive starters from last year. They have guys that will play in the NFL. Dobbins, 29 carries, Alex, 181 yards, 6.2 yards per carry. And it's how he looked doing it. We've seen a lot of running backs over the years get over 100 yards against Indiana's defense, but Dobbins with that jump cut and him making something out of nothing. And it's not just his home run hitting ability. He can run tough between the tackles. I love everything about him. And people say, well, you can't lose your job because of injury. Yes, you can. If the other guy looks better than you ever would have looked, I mean, I like Mike Weber. I just don't think he's getting his job back. I think this is J.K. Dobbins' job. Maybe there'll be a timeshare. I'm sure there will be a timeshare, but I don't see how J.K. Dobbins loses his job after that performance, Alex.
I think Mike Weber's going to be the starter this year. I don't think you need to put names on it though. I think Mike Weber is going to be the guy first in the game, and I think him and J.K. Dobbins are going to be an incredible 1-2 punch for Ohio State whenever Mike Weber comes back healthy, which Urban Meyer said last night is going to be Oklahoma. To me, I wasn't surprised by what J.K. Dobbins did. I predicted earlier in the week in my my Brave and Bold column that Mike Weber would sit and J.K. Dobbins would shine, and I had a friend last night text me about Mike Weber's over-under of 92.5, and I said, take the under because I don't think he's going to play, and if he does, he's going to be very limited. And I said, is there any props on J.K. Dobbins going over whatever, because he's going to hit over 100 yards. And, 181 yards, whatever it was, is extremely impressive. I think Indiana, obviously, they have a solid defense. Their strength is more their back seven versus their front seven, but you definitely have to be impressed what he did. He showed everything that we've been hearing about. He's the real deal. He's going to play a ton this year. I think Mike Weber is still going to be the first guy in the game, the quote unquote starter. But I think both of them are going to play a ton and they're going to use both of them to their strength. I don't think it's fair to judge Mike Weber this year because supposedly he's in the best shape of his life. Supposedly he made great strides this offseason. He has a year under his belt where he had over 1,000 yards rushing as a redshirt freshman, and he didn't even get the carries he should have down the stretch, in my opinion, in some of those tougher games against Michigan and Clemson and Michigan State. So I think Mike Weber's going to surprise some people too. I think you're going to be really happy with what you see from a healthy Mike Weber when he's back. But I think this is a great thing for Ohio State. They're going to have two really good running backs that they can use for their strengths. I actually thought last night there were some situations where you would have rather had Weber than Dobbins. Some of those short yardage, those 3rd and 2s, 4th and 2s, 4th 3s, whatever. I think Weber's just a little bit more of a hammer on the inside. Not that Dobbins can't run in between the tackles. I think Weber just could be a little bit more of a hammer type of running back, and Dobbins can bring the flash, and they could do a little bit of a lightning and thunder combination. I think it's going to be a great thing for Ohio State, but I don't think you're ever going to see the situation where people are going to feel like Weber lost his job. I think Dobbins is going to have more share than maybe we thought he would have 2 weeks ago, but I don't think Weber is going to quote unquote lose his job. But at the end of the day, it's just semantics. It really doesn't matter. These are going to be two great running backs for Ohio State this year.
I just think Dobbins is better. I mean, and it's not a knock on Weber. I mean, there's a lot of running backs out there that are really good that have somebody that's better than them. I just feel like Dobbins to me, he's just better.
I mean, you haven't seen Mike Weber this year, though, so it's hard to say if he's better. I mean, Weber supposedly got...
I've seen Mike Weber for 2 years, though. People act like Mike Weber was a true freshman last year. He was a redshirt freshman.
Right, but you saw him 1 year on the field. You didn't get on the field freshman year. So, in my opinion, and this is again, I love J.K. Dobbins. I thought he was great last night. I just thought there were some situations where he was just, especially in the short yardage where I thought he could have done better. But he had an incredible night, the best debut from a freshman running back all time at Ohio State. You can't take that away from him. But let's also see what he does against Oklahoma. Let's see what he does against, not that Indiana has a good defense. That was on the road, first game, et cetera. But, I just think it's unfair to say what Mike Weber's going to do this year. And I also think it's unfair to completely say J.K. Dobbins is the greatest thing since sliced bread because of an incredible performance in game one against Indiana. I think he's going to be really good. I think Mike Weber's going to be really good. I think time will tell who is the better back. And you could very well be right. It could be J.K. Dobbins. I'm just not ready to make that call yet. That's all I'm saying.
Are we not giving Indiana enough credit? Because we knew about their defense coming in. I will, mea culpa for me on their offense. I figured with no Kevin Wilson there that they were just going to take a gigantic step back, kind of what we saw them do in the second half. But in the first half, here's what I saw. Yeah, at times Ohio State's defense was not playing well, but overall I give a lot of credit to Indiana. I rewatched the game last night, which might have been a mistake because I was already up too late. I'm seeing a frenetic pace from an offense that, Kirk Herbstreit said it's faster than Oregon during the Chip Kelly days. I mean, the tempo was fast, and not just was the tempo fast. I mean, Legal was putting the ball on the money. His receivers were making plays. Simi Cobbs was making NFL-style plays out there. I feel like we're not giving enough credit to Indiana. And this is coming from someone who, entering the game, said, Indiana's offense is not going to be able to do much against Ohio State's defense. Well, I was wrong. They looked pretty good for about 2.5 quarters. And we know Indiana's defense is good, too. Are we not giving enough credit to Indiana?
You're probably right. We're probably not. again, I think they did a great job, and I think Ohio State, the Jimmies and Joes over the X's and O's, and Ohio State just ran them down toward the end of the game. But I think, I will say Crow was served for me this morning, too. I thought Indiana's offense would take a step back. I thought with Mike DeBoer, a new offense coordinator, and them having to implement a new system and whatever, and just without Kevin Wilson there, I thought it would take a step backwards, but it really didn't. If anything, it took a step forwards. And I remember watching the Ohio State-Indiana game last year and couldn't believe how fast Indiana was playing. It was absolutely incredible how fast they were playing, and that just continued last night. It's almost like Kevin Wilson didn't even leave, and Mike DeBoer just kind of came in, and now he's the one calling the same offense. And I agree with Kirk Herbstreit. I think that was faster than what we saw against Oregon, in the Rose Bowl, in the national championship game. That was a fast offense, and they were just throwing these back shoulder hitches, and they were just killing Ohio State and throwing up, one-on-one jump balls, and the receivers were making the plays and coming down with them. They have I think Herbstreit had a little hyperbole when he said this is the best group of receivers and quarterback that Ohio State is going to face all year. And maybe he's right. I don't know if that's going to be true, but there's no doubt that those receivers are very talented, and Lego, while he does make some bad mistakes, especially when he's under pressure, and he did turn on the ball over twice, the guy has a live arm. He could throw the football, and he did it all over the Ohio State secondary, especially in the first half last night. So I am very impressed with what Indiana brought on offense, and I expected it on defense. I knew they had a really good secondary, some talented linebackers, and they did a great job in the first half. But once Ohio State made the adjustments, play calling opened up a little bit. They got into a little bit of a groove. They just couldn't hang. But got to give credit to Indiana. They played much better than I thought they would.
Great stuff from Alex Gleitman. I really appreciate it, Alex, and thanks to all the listeners out there for tuning into the show. I hope you have a great day and a great weekend. Let's hear that Buckeye swag, best damn band in the land.